affect the future of our world. And what does the message of Jesus say to those problems? I just read a book called The Secret Message of Jesus, which is about Jesus' gospel of the kingdom. And so then I wanted to say, how does that message relate to our world today and its top crises today? And so I did a lot of research for this book and tried to find out who is talking about global problems. There's an important book called High Noon by a fellow named Richard. He is European and works for the World Bank. And he identified 20 global problems that he said we must solve in the next 20 years or we're in a lot of trouble. Then there's another group called the Copenhagen Consensus based in Denmark. That's a group of economists. And interestingly, it's been mostly economists who pay attention to global problems. I don't know if we have any economists here, but they're the ones who are paying attention. And the Copenhagen Consensus brought together 38 of the world's top economists and got them asking what are the most dangerous problems in the world. Now, it's hard to define. The way they did it is they said something like this. If you had $100 billion, how could you spend it to alleviate the most suffering in the world? And they came up with 10 top problems. Then many of you would be familiar with something called the Millennium Development Goals. And this was a move of the 191 nations of the United Nations. And they agreed that there were 8 problems that were top problems that we could solve, or goals that we could achieve by 2015. And another very important list. And then some of you may know an American Christian pastor named Rick Warren. And I was very interested. Rick became incredibly famous and wealthy, even though he's incredibly generous, because of his books. And when he reached this great place of wealth and power, he decided to start talking about global problems. And he came up with a list of 5 global problems that he wanted to mobilize Christians to address and try to solve. In fact, Rick Warren used the language of a new Reformation. He said the last Reformation was about theology. He said this Reformation will be about practice, about lifestyle in relation to the world's top problems. And he calls it the peace plan. As Rick always does, each letter stands for something. Well, I began by studying all of these lists and doing a lot of research. I talked to a lot of friends of mine in politics and economics, and I spent the last several years trying to understand the world's top problems. Because before I could say what does the teaching of Jesus say to these problems, I had to